Hello and welcome to Inside Music, episode number 65. I'm your host, James Shotwell, and on this episode, I'm chatting with Candace from Walls of Jericho. Now, if you're not a fan of hardcore, metal, and the whole hard rock scene, you might not know Walls of Jericho, but if you are, then you know this band is essentially a household name. Walls of Jericho have been defining hardcore for the better part of 2 decades, actually longer than 2 decades at this point. And though they spent the last few years mostly touring and not really recording, they are as active and as talented as ever before. In fact, I believe their new album, No One Can Save You From Yourself, is their best work to date. The record hits stores this Friday, March 25th, the exact same day as Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice arrives in theaters, and having experienced both works of art, I can tell you that No One Can Save You From Yourself is the far better option. Yes, if you can only afford one piece of entertainment this weekend, I think Walls of Jericho's new album is better than the new Batman and Superman movie. You heard it here first. It might be a controversial opinion, but I think once you see the movie, you'll probably agree with me. Anyways, Candace is on the show to talk about the creation of No One Can Save You From Yourself, the inspiration behind the lyrics, and a whole lot more. We talk about how her life has changed since having a child, the way the band has evolved over time, her aspirations for the future of the group, and pretty much everything in between. Whether you've ever been a fan of Walls of Jericho or maybe just a fan of hardcore in general, this is a conversation you do not want to miss. Before I get there, I do want to tell you about our sponsor. This episode of Inside Music and every episode of Inside Music is only made possible because of Holix, the internet's leading digital promotional distribution system. Whether you're looking to get your music in front of the press or need a little help fighting piracy, Holix has state-of-the-art tools that can help you better promote your new music. For more information on Holix and access to a free 30-day trial, visit www.holix.com. That's HAULIX.com. I also think you should follow the podcast on Twitter. Yes, we're on Twitter, and we do share a lot of insights into the episodes, and we try to keep the conversation going even after the show has been released. You can follow us at Inside Music Pod. That's at Inside Music Pod. I think that's everything I got this week. I'm trying to keep the introduction short because it's a big conversation and I want you to be able to take it all in. I'm going to play you a little bit of the title track from the new Walls of Jericho album, which again hits stores this Friday, March 25th, and then I'm going to get to the chat with Candace. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the show.
Every day, so strong. All hope is not lost. The suffer doesn't cost me a strong. The stop sign. Looking up a mess. Why a cause? No one is the same from our past. No one can save you from yourself. No one can free you from yourself. No one. You don't need any help. No. You can't face me. This is the turning point.
But yeah, so when John sent out the initial press release that he was working with you guys like 2 months ago, I sent him an email like within 30 seconds, and I was like, I gotta get Candace on the show. Can I hear the record? And he was like, not yet. Calm down.
Aww.
And I was like, all right. And then when he sent out, I think when you guys released Relentless for the first time, I was like, now? And he was like, okay, now we'll work on it.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, so I've been excited, and I'm happy you're doing this because I've heard the record a few times now, and I really like it, and so I'm excited to kind of dive in before you've like talked yourself out of talking about it.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Good.
Yeah, well, I'm one of those people who like I really love the American Dream, and then in like 2012 or so, I found myself being like, man, are we ever gonna get another Walls of Jericho album? So
Right.
this was like the Christmas that I've been waiting for.
Oh, wonderful.
And I think other people will feel the same. We'll get there. So we're like 2 weeks away now, like 2 weeks and 2 days from the release. How are you feeling about the album right now?
I'm anxious. I'm excited. We're kind of in the middle of like doing music video stuff. So, you're trying to figure out songs for that. And so I've been listening to the record just because, everyone's kind of got like their different say in which song they want for a video. And so I'm really anxious to get it out and to play it live, to play the songs live. So
yeah, you guys have is the album release show in Detroit on release day?
It's like the day after.
All right. Okay, yeah. So anyone listening, this will be out before then. Anyone listening, there is a release show. I don't think it's sold out right when we're talking, but it may be by then. Who knows?
I mean, that would be awesome. But yeah, the release show is the 25th of March
at the shelter
in Detroit. And it's also, coupled. Hold on a second. Okay. It's also coupled with it being a benefit for Relentless as well.
Great. And we're gonna get there.
Can you hold on one second?
Of course.
Like, no, I'm sorry. They're looking at right at.
No problem.
So it's coupled with if you buy the VIP tickets, we're doing like VIP tickets that are a little bit more, but you get the new record with it, and then the money goes towards Relentless charity.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is that just for the release show, or is that going to be for all supporting shows for the new release?
So it's just for this show, just for the Detroit show. But we did a Relentless benefit show last year as well. So usually when we do Detroit shows, we make it a benefit for something. But we've been a part of the Relentless organization for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
So what we also do is while we are on tour, we usually have one merchandise item where all the proceeds go to Relentless. And I mean, over the past few years, we've raised over $10,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, through the people at the shows either donating money towards it or buying something that went towards it. And so in Relentless itself, there are two, one in Minnesota, one in Detroit. But the one in Detroit, what they do is raise money. They pick 5 to 7 families a year, and they raise money for those specific families. So, you get to know them, and get to become part of their lives. And then through an event, a weightlifting event, powerlifting, we lift for the kids and make it a big day, weekend event for them.
Oh, cool. All right. Okay. Yeah. Did the song come because of the organization or vice? Okay. That was going to be I was like, let's just jump ahead to there.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the first song written for this record. And it was the first thing that finally inspired me and got rid of my writer's block was being a part of this organization. I lifted at a couple of meets and seeing how they just relentlessly give hope to people and try to change people's lives. This organization, I wanted to write a song for them, for the kids, for their families, and just show them how much they inspire people through giving hope.
That's great. Now, a quick question while we're still on Relentless: is that your daughter's voice on the album version?
Oh my gosh! So my daughter's mixed in, but that is actually her best friend.
Oh no!
Right, and so it was really exciting. We collected all of it. It was hundreds of voices, and Mike actually was one who sat down and kind of put them all together. He had no idea that was her best friend.
Yeah, I was listening to today, and I was like, maybe that's her. I was like, what a cute thing to do for their daughter. Now that you say that, when it's still awesome, but I can see when she's 13, she'll be like, remember when you chose my friend over me, Mom?
Right, I know, right? Thanks, Mom. But but what is also cool is that Connor Bent, he was a Relentless kid that we raised money for that year. That song came out, and he actually passed away. But a few days before he passed, his voice is on there within the first opening part. So we got his voice on there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I went back to the demo today and I listened to the new version, and I really like the addition of the voices. I don't know why, but I think it just kind of adds a little more emphasis to what you're trying to say.
It gives me chills every time we play it, because we just go ahead and play that over the PA when we do it live.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And having the kids' voices, I mean, it's that innocent thing right before all the heavy pulls in, where you're just like, oh
man, it's heart wrenching. I mean, because the kids that we raise money for range from being 2 years to 16, so it's very difficult. A few have passed, but someone was like, how can you do this in day out to a friend of mine? And he was like, well, if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
Exactly.
You're right.
Wow. So. Well, okay. Well, we're already deep into the record. I have questions leading into the album. That's fine. We'll just backtrack. Okay. It's fine. There's just a lot to talk about. This being the first record in 8 years, is it the same nerves you had leading into the American Dream? Do you feel it's a different set of nerves when it's been this far away?
Oh, it's definitely a different set of nerves, because it has been so long, and because we are so really excited about this record, and then to play it live, and but it's nervous, exciting. They all are on the same plane. I'd have to say I'm more excited than nervous for this record in comparison to the other ones, for sure. because it was so long.
Now, when did you first start writing? Now, I know Relentless, that demo came out, God, that has to be like 3 years now, right? So is that when you started, had you been writing for a bit when you got Relentless completed?
We did. So that was, Mike had actually been writing for a while, our guitar player. And there was talks of us doing a new record. And so I was trying to write lyrics. On all of our other records, I write 90% of the lyrics. Yeah. So I knew it was going to be on me. And with where I was at in my life, I was staying home with my daughter, super mommy mode. Like, I had a hard time. Like, even the way I used to write would be, something would inspire me in the middle of the night while I was laying in bed, and I'd get up, make a pot of coffee, and I'd stay up all night writing. And that my life just doesn't allow for that anymore. So it was like so many things had changed for me, and I just felt like I had this major writer's block. So that's why it took so long with certain things. But Relentless, being a part of the organization, that's why it was the very first song. I finally felt kind of inspired to write.
Yeah.
And so
now
I did that. And actually, you know, my ex-husband Frankie and I both wrote that song together. Wrote the actual lyrics for that song together.
Oh wow. Now I've been watching the webisodes, which I think are hilarious.
Thanks.
they're so much fun. I like that there's like no cuts, and like the one where you introduce yourself makes me laugh so hard because they have you do it like 4 times and it never cuts out. That's
totally me. I'm always effing it up. So not pro. Yeah.
But there's a little line I heard in there. I was curious because it's not. I don't think it's Mike, but someone mentions that, you know, you guys did a lot of writing, and then kind of when you went in to do pre-production, you kind of went back to all the stuff you had written early on, and some stuff stayed and a lot of stuff got cut. Like, aside from a Relentless, how much stuff from like those initial writing sessions made it to the actual record, would you say?
So, quite a bit of it, honestly. I mean, Mike feels that way because Mike was the one who wrote most of the actual music for this record. Normally, after our first record, Chris Rawson had joined with us, and him and Mike would write together because Chris is very much into writing music. But this time around, he is in Secure Guns full time, and so Mike took all of it pretty much. And so he, you know, like things got kind of cut here and there, and he had been writing songs that kind of went to a different band. But a lot of it stuck around. And then lyric-wise, like, was pretty much all written the past couple, you know, like year. So,
yeah,
writing the record, you know, so.
Yeah, you guys did pre-pro like this time last year, so
we did. And it was actually, and it was a pretty crazy time. My brother had gotten diagnosed with brain cancer in November. And in January, it was pretty obvious. He was terminal, and it was pretty obvious that he wasn't going to have much longer. So I had, at that point, was living in Ohio, and so I moved to Michigan to go be with my brother. And he had 2 younger sons. He has 2 sons and his wife, and to like help them. And my Casey, our guitar player, actually lives 20 minutes down the road from them. So pre-production kind of just fell in our lap. Like, it just made sense, like, when I had time that we could go and we could, you know, it was a great way for me to release and, you know, and just try to create, you know.
Work through it.
Yeah, and work through it. So, you know, Mike was there and Aaron would come and so would Chris, and we kind of all just bounced ideas off of each other and like really wrote everything around that time.
Yeah,
and put everything together during that time.
Yeah, there's a quote from Mike in one of those webisodes where he says that like all of you have kind of dealt with loss since the last time the band's really put out a record, and it's funny that, you know, there's a sense of that on the album, but it's not necessarily an album where it's like sad. You don't get the impression that it's like you're down because of a loss necessarily, which I think is kind of interesting. Right. That it would be so inspirational, yet that's not exactly what you necessarily wrote about.
Right. I mean, so. Cupboard, the song Cupboard is actually about my brother.
Okay.
His wife and I collaborated together about that song. And he is a very unique person. He had so much to offer. He lived so passionately and like loved so much. And I think I was seeing things differently while all of this was happening. You know, we all just get stuck in our day to day and we prioritize things that don't need to be prioritized. You know, and we stress out about things that don't really matter. And so he was reminding me of all that, you know, what does matter? What do you need to care about? So he definitely inspired probably that tone of not sadness, but
what's important.
Yeah, right. So
I do feel like that's the message of the album, like kind of refocus who you are and what you're about.
Right, absolutely. What we feel as a band is important, you know, because we do address political, social, and like personal issues on this record. And like I said, normally I'm like 90% of the lyrics, but this time around it was everyone. We would sit down, we would pick a topic that we all felt strongly about, and we would just write together. So I think that it's super unique for me. This whole record is a total different experience. And I like that there's a female and a male perspective on this record, you know?
Definitely. Now, when would you say the sound of the record really took shape? I mean, Relentless fits in with the rest of the album, but there's a clear, almost like classic hardcore approach to the sound, and especially in comparison to the American Dream. So what would you say where do you think that came from?
So like I kind of mentioned before how Chris and Mike would write together. Well,
definitely.
On this record, it really was just Mike.
So it was the
and so that
Chris,
kind of brings it back to that old school kind of sound because it's exactly just the way he writes. You know, he's the oldest of all of us. He kind of has that, you know. And then what we had a chance to do over the past 8 years is develop our sound. You know, normally you write, you know, every 2 years you put out a record. You grab a couple of songs off that new record, replace some of the old ones, and you just keep chugging along. You know, but because we couldn't do that, we really perfected like our one set list, you know, and we found the songs that we felt were rippers, heavy, and really represented who we were as a band on stage. And because we like to create a certain vibe. We are all high energy kind of a band, like move, let's go. And so, you know, through trial and error, we kind of eliminated certain songs that didn't give the vibe that we liked on stage. And then we realized this is what we need. We need a whole entire record like this. And so that was our main focus, is let's create a record of all songs that we would want to play on stage, that we feel would create the energy and the vibe that we like. You know, so it was really interesting. And then combine that with Mike and the way he writes, and it was cool. It was definitely a different way, and that's why we're so excited. Like, it's going to be hard not to replace like almost all the songs with new songs. We like them so much.
That's good. That's good because, you know, there are times, and you know, we've both been around bands who like they put out a new album and you're like, they're only ever going to play 4 songs off this record. Like at best, you'll play 4 songs. And this album, I do feel like you could play this whole record. I mean, it flows well together, and it's all the songs work.
Thank you.
I guess that's egotistical for you to say, but I don't have a leg in the game, so I can say that.
No, right. I mean, we even with usually like in between songs, there's a certain time period of silence, and we actually cut that short. We like on purpose moved things so it would move faster and kind of just roll the way that we like to roll.
I like that. Now, since Relentless was the first song, what made Fight the Good Fight the second song? That came out to the public anyways.
Oh, that came out. Okay. Well, Relentless at that point was the only song we had.
Yeah, true.
It was the only new song that we had. We had full lyrics to it. And like we said, normally you would wait and put that on a record, but we felt that song was so important, and it was so important to get that message out to these kids that we just did something that we normally wouldn't do, which is just release it. Yeah. You know, but and then Fight the Good Fight, that really encompasses like who we are and what we're trying to say is really all about you and who you are at the end of the day, no matter what, you know. And so, and like, no matter, we all go through our shit, we all have our struggles, and these struggles define who we are, you know, and they help us grow. But it's how you deal with things at the end of the day that matter, you know. So whether, you know, in any situation, political, social, personal, like there's, you know, in so many ways, like really that's what matters at the end of the day. So I think it's a great song for our first song.
You know, you mentioned you were thinking about singles. You're kind of kicking around ideas for a video. Personally, my favorite song on the album, and that what you just said leads into this, is I think the title track is just a stunner. Oh,
I love that song too. I know we have something in the works.
Oh,
we have something good in the works. We have something good in the works and fun in the works. You know, because our band it's a pretty serious band. You know, like we talk about pretty serious issues. We talk about issues people do not want to talk about: domestic violence, sexual abuse. things that are hard to swallow. And, all of that we leave in the lyrics. And then when we do our shows, we smile, want to have a good time, So, like, when we do videos, we're trying to, like, do some that are kind of, like, a little lighthearted, and good and fun to watch. So we got some good stuff planned for that song.
Well, that's one of the things I've always admired about your band is because when you see Walls of Jericho live, the first time I ever heard Walls of Jericho was live, seeing you guys perform, and there is like this inherent sense of fun to just the big and the heaviness, and it's you really get into it, and then there's this other layer you kind of peel back the heavy, and you're like, oh my gosh, like we're talking about some serious shit here,
right?
As opposed to like we peel it back and there's nothing.
Right, no substance whatsoever. And I mean, that's what drew me to this music to begin with. Punk rock, hardcore metal, the substance of it is what brought me to it, the not feeling alone and feeling like I had a connection with people who understood what I was going through, and so that was always been the reason for this band, is to have lyrics like that, so. Now,
when did Napalm Records come into the whole world of Walls of Jericho?
A couple of years ago, we started talks. Because, we've been, Trust Kill went under quite a while ago. We've just kind of been working with nobody, So just kind of floating and doing shows and doing what we can do. And, we needed a good fit. We are not a band that tours full time because we have families. And it's very important to us to find a balance between what we love and who we love, and they understand that. We are a super loyal band. Like the first tour manager that we met in Europe, he's still our tour manager today. The booking agent from over there is still our booking agent. Here we go, 15 years later. Ben, we met Ben. He's done a few records. He will continue to do our records. Like, we find people who become our family. And so that's why it took a while. It took a little while to find. We had to find that fit, and they understand that, and they respect us, and they respect who we are and what we want to accomplish. And so we're very, very happy to be with them.
You mentioned that how you kind of surround yourselves with people that are like family. Would you say that that's kind of like the secret to the longevity of Walls of Jericho, is that family element?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Otherwise, we would not be able to do this. Shit's hard, man. Being on tour, being away from the people that you love, alienated, it's extremely difficult. And for me as a female, it's hard. It's hard, and if I didn't feel like they always had my back, it just wouldn't work, and they feel the same way. If we're not looking out for each other's best interests, then it's just not, then it's not only a job, but then it is only a job instead of also a passion, So, like Chris, for instance, in the new video that we just released, Bobby is now in our band. He just joined. He is going to be a permanent member, but he is also our sixth member. Like Chris, even though he can't tour with us very often, he will never not be a part of this band. And if he wants to do a tour, he gets to do a tour. And Bobby totally understands and respects that. But we didn't want to just continue to have a fill-in. We want somebody who is invested in the band, and we are invested in them, so that, they can have fun and really appreciate the songs the way we do. So.
Definitely. Now, I'm sure you get this a lot, and we kind of been talking about it, but, 20 years of Walls of Jericho. I was trying to think today if I knew any other, heavy bands that were still active today that had 20 years, and, you guys don't have a ton of records, so outside of the family aspect, how do you think you've been able to keep fans engaged, even though there's been these big these gaps? Because that's a real problem. Some people can't do it for 6 months.
I'm thankful for it.
Yeah.
It's got to our show, just like you said, we put every ounce of energy that we have. You can't go on there and have a bad day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't go on and half-ass it, and we all put a lot of energy on that stage. You know what I'm saying? We come from that school of you just kind of lose your shit and have a good time. And so, I it's definitely not it's our antics on stage, because I'm kind of pretty quiet. I get a little shy. I know it's hard to believe, but I do. It's I'm let's not talk, let's just rock.
I like that. Don't talk, just rock. Just
yeah, don't talk, just rock. It's kind of always been my motto, and I'm really bad at it. So, So I don't know, but I'm super thankful for it. We only tour a couple times a year, like I said, because of family. Now that my daughter is getting older, like she's 4.5, she totally understands now what's going on.
Okay.
We watch videos together. She laughs. She's like, "Mommy, your band's neat." I'm like, "Oh, cool." She came to the recording studio with me and sat in the studio box with me while I was recording lyrics.
Wow.
She was there while we did the video. Like she understands now that if I'm leaving, I'm only leaving for 12 sleeps or whatnot. And I feel better about touring a little bit more now. Now that she knows I'm going to come back, now that I can actually talk to her on the phone, so we can stay connected every day. It just it's going to make it easier to find that balance, between touring a little bit more, hopefully hitting the U.S., things like that.
Now, have you taken her out on the road with you yet?
No, I haven't. I don't feel like she's old enough. I'm definitely like a mama bear. I considered taking her on tour once. We even had a plane ticket for her, and I flipped out. I couldn't do it. I was like, I can't. What if something happens? What if the plane crashes? Like, what if the bus crashes? Like, because we just happened to be on a tour that there was a bus. That is why we even considered bringing her. Normally, we tour in vans, bottom line. But if the tour provides a bus and you're part of that tour package, then, But I just couldn't. I was just too scared to bring her. But I will, in the future, I definitely will. She wants to. She already asks if she can come, So when she's just a little older,
Oh no, I can't even imagine having to try to decide, like, is it too soon? Is it a good time? Because you never know what's going to happen from night to night.
Right. Exactly. And so, a lot of things would have to fall in place for me to really consider bringing her,
But at least you have a full band as a family to support you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. Right. You mentioned earlier that you're in Boston now and you're not in Michigan anymore, but whenever people talk about Walls of Jericho, I feel like you're still associated as being like this Michigan legendary band. Are all of you out of Michigan now, or do some of the guys still live there?
Yep. Can you hold on one second?
Of course.
This car might be done.
Perfect.
Hello?
I'm here.
Right, hello. Okay.
We good?
Yes, that guy was nice, but he was talking away. I was like, let me go, I gotta
go. But yeah, so what we're talking about the guys. Is there anyone still in Michigan?
Yes. So Aaron and Mike are in Michigan. Dustin's never been in Michigan.
Okay.
He's in Ohio, like Toledo, which is 40 minutes away.
Yeah, same thing.
And then same with Chris. He's been in Windsor, which is like right over the border.
Yeah. Sometimes when I have a conversation, because I'm from Michigan as well, I'm from like the Kalamazoo area of Michigan. So,
okay.
So
right. So we're right outside of Detroit.
Yeah. And I was born in Bowling Green, Ohio. So like I get the area.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm talking about it with someone like this, I'm always like, I wish I could just like have a map of a hand handy for people listening at home so they understand what we're talking about.
Right.
But yeah. Go ahead.
So like, yeah, I moved out of Michigan like 4.5 years ago to
Okay.
Boston, and then I actually moved to Ohio for a couple of years, and now I'm back in Boston.
What drew you to Boston?
Family.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had to move out there for work, so family's a way better excuse.
Yes, it is.
Now, with everything, there's a lot going on. The reason I bring this is because there's so much going on in Michigan right now, and there's been a ton of artists kind of speaking up about everything in Flint and the Detroit public schools. You guys are involved in Relentless, but is there any chance that you guys might do something for these other causes that are kind of happening in your old
right?
stomping
What's going
grounds?
on in Flint? We would. We definitely would. But there's actually a benefit show the day after for Flint from Suicide Machines, which is an older Detroit band. Is actually doing one, but and so of course we would if it was, we just were focused on Relentless because there's more kids this year for Relentless.
Okay.
So it will be like 7 new families.
Oh wow.
And tied with like going through what my brother went through, it's just something that we would really like to keep raising money for. But a lot of bands are doing that. And if we got asked to do a benefit show, we would do it immediately. You know,
hint, hint.
How we are.
Yeah.
Right. Just
Put that out there. We're just if anyone has an opening, yeah. So there you go.
Right.
Well, I definitely didn't think you guys were not going to say anything. It's been interesting to see, especially this year in general. Like the last year, I feel like musicians are being expected to get more and more involved with like socio-political issues, be it something in Flint or be it anything really.
Right.
And you as a band have always been very outspoken about everything from politics to sex crimes, all of that stuff. So I'm curious what the Walls of Jericho kind of approach to tackling these things are, because I want to hear from you because you have always been so outspoken.
Right. And then the thing is especially what's going on in Detroit, like I have not really been a part of what's going on because I don't live there anymore. So that's why we don't kind of address that. I know what's going on. So like I said, if we could, we absolutely would play a benefit show, but I'm not there. So it's not as easy for us to play like benefit shows like that, know? And that is also why we are a part of Relentless, is because these are actually families from Detroit as well.
Yes. And Relentless is a great cause, and I'm glad that you guys stick with it, because that's another thing that doesn't really happen in music. Sometimes artists hop on the bandwagon of like, I've got to make a comment about Flint, and then next month they don't care at all about Flint.
Right.
And you guys,
of course, they care about Flint. What's happening is tragic. Tragic.
It's tragic. Yeah. But people
absolutely, and I know that things are finally starting to move.
Yeah. And people have such short attention spans these days, especially musicians, because you have to keep so many balls in the air at once. It's great to see that you guys make time to focus on the important stuff, as we said earlier.
Right. Thank you.
No problem. Before we move on any further, if people want to get involved with Relentless, like how should they go about doing that?
So actually, if you just go online, you just look up Relentless. If there's one, it's a website that's actually for both of them. So the Minnesota one is a Hope Kids benefit. So the organization Hope Kids, like Relentless, will raise money for Hope Kids, and which they put money together, they pull money together and do things for the children, do activities for the children, and then the website is together with Detroit, Relentless Detroit, which they hand pick 5 to 7 families each year and raise money directly for that family. So they're just a little different, but you can just go on the website and you can get hooked up to either one of them. And through Facebook, there are so many people that if you just type in Relentless, you will find like people. Everyone's raising money for Relentless Minnesota. And so my ex-husband Frankie, him and our friend Shireen are raising money for them. So, shoot, if you look up his name, you can actually just find where to donate through his cause.
So you guys still have a lot of interaction, you and Frankie, then? Because I think this is like the third time we've brought him up in this conversation.
Right, because,
obviously you have a child.
Yep. Yes, we do.
Kind of ties you together.
Yeah, that's why it matters. But he is a huge part of Relentless, so that's why, I don't want to ever leave him out, because he had a hand in writing the song with me. And then, like I said, if you want to raise money for Relentless right now, they are right now raising money, and they have their donation link up on their Facebooks. And then, like I said, this Detroit show that we're going to be doing, we will also have raffle bins. So what I do is get shirts from bands, and then I do a small, medium, large, extra large bin, and then we just raffle them off, to raise more money.
Awesome. That sounds
great.
So
just in case you can't make it to the VIP, there's still another way to donate to Relentless. So
back to the album. Let's talk about the artwork design, because it's real eye catching. What's this? Who made it? What's the story behind it?
A friend of Aaron's made it, and it was a collaboration of a couple of people. And I'm glad it turned out the way it did. It was, artwork is the hardest thing, like one of the hardest things to deal with, because everyone's got the way that they like things, their own preferences. Yeah. And it's just that whole idea of, that there's beauty in things that are painful. And that's like that song Cupboard. There is beauty in this. You just have to find it. Like we kind of talk about that, like through heartache, through pain, through death, through darkness, there's always that light, through the grimy, and there's always the beautiful. So it's just kind of representing all of that, the good, the evil, you know, the good, the bad type of thing.
No, I like it. It pops in a way that a lot of like heavier music artwork doesn't usually. Plus, it's like lighter colors, so I don't know. It's, you know,
right. Oh, I'm glad. Like, I mean, because
off.
no one can save you from yourself. It kind of just all ties together. Is that, like, you know, we all have our dark times, and we all have our tragedies, and we all have, you know, those ups and downs and self-doubt, and like through that is how you come out on the other end and find true change and growth, you know. So
couldn't agree more. Let's talk goals. When you're this far into a career, I mean, obviously you want the album to be a success, but as a band, is there something that you're necessarily working towards, or like there's, you know, some echelon you want to reach, or is it just, you know, make music as long as people give a crap?
Honestly, longevity. Just make music as long as we possibly can. You know, there's no fantasy here. We are a hardcore metal band. What, you know, like, we're not going to be on the cover of Rolling Stone.
You're not waiting on a Grammy?
Yeah. Nope, not waiting on a Grammy. Just want to play music. You know, we just want to play music. And before I actually decided to stop and have a family, we had been rolling for like 10 years as a band. We like going 10 months out of the year. We tour, barely be home. You know, it's hard on a person. And so through the 2 years of me being pregnant and having my daughter and being home, you know, we all kind of had that hunger again for it. It gave us that perspective and reminded us of why we do it and why we love doing it. And then because we couldn't do it full time, it's just so fun. It really takes the pressure off things in a way, you know. And
no, I get that.
So it's pretty awesome that we are just also very thankful that we even get to do this. We know how lucky we are that we get to travel the world and play music that we love, you know, and act like fucking kids,
yeah.
You know, like total a-holes, like on stage just doing shit. Like, you know, we know how fortunate we are to be able to do it. And so, you know, we'd like to be able to balance and do it a little bit more, you know, follow and live passionately with our lives and try to follow that dream of just being able to do it. You know, so
yeah,
we would like to tour more. We would, like, that is, I guess, would be our goal, would to actually be able to do a few more tours a year and hit the U.S. more. We hate that we've been away from the U.S. for so long, and it's really not by choice. You know, it's, you know, to tour in the U.S. you have to like dedicate like 3 to 4 weeks to it.
Yeah,
you know, and we just haven't done a tour that's been longer than 14 days in years. You know, so, and that is because, like I said, of my daughter, and she's now getting to that age where she does understand, and it will be easier. This will be the first time we do like a 3-week tour in June. It'll be the first time that we've done a tour that long. And so it's giving us the capability to actually tour the U.S. and finally have a new record that really matters. Like, politics, huge in the U.S.
Yeah.
The whole music, politics and music.
True.
But, you know, it's, you know, when we were younger, it'd be like, hey, let's tour with your band. Yeah, we want to tour with your band. And you just go. You know, now it's like, well, what can you bring? Who can you draw? And it's not the band. It's just the people behind the scenes, you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, you can't, it's like there's good and bad, you know?
No, it is. That's
it's
like,
good that they're there. It's bad that they're there. It's hard.
It's the changing of the times. I mean,
Right.
there's two sides to both. Like 10 years ago, if you had decided to start a family when you guys were in a band and you wanted to go out on the road a ton, like there was no FaceTime, people didn't really text, like there was no way to really communicate with people that weren't with you at the moment without like just calling them on the phone. You have more ways. You could see your daughter every night on the road at this way now. Like we were in that age.
Yeah.
But at the same time, everyone can upload music to the internet, and now everyone's like, what can you give me? Like, why should we bring you on the tour?
Right. Exactly. Yep. And so, before they used to kind of base things off of your CD sales, but then that, like, obviously that dropped, that declined for everybody because people were downloading so much. And then here you have the actual record label who, it's not like they're trying to be greedy. They just need to make enough money to survive. But if nobody's buying records, then they have to get money somewhere else. Guess who they get it from? The bands.
The bands.
You know, then you have new record deals where all of a sudden they're getting a percentage of everything. You know, like, it was a really tricky thing for a little while in the music scene, and all it did was hurt the bands.
It's
and
true.
People just don't know that, you know, which is okay. It's like, there's no fault of their own. I'll tell somebody to download our record in a heartbeat. Like, oh, you don't got money? Go buy that. Go get it. Like, go steal that shit for free. Who cares? You know, but read the lyrics. 'Cause that's
I like that.
That's what matters.
No, but you're absolutely right, and it's kind of it's kind of nice because when you guys really after the American Dream cycle kind of died down and you guys were kind of stepped out, like that was kind of when it really came to a head, where it was like how things had worked pretty much up until the new the rise of the digital age. Like the roadblock really happened like 2008, 2009, 2010. It was like this weird watershed moment for the entire especially the heavy industry, labels, bands.
Right, you really saw what happened, how the chain reaction
Yeah,
it was pretty crazy.
Those are stories like in this podcast we're trying to get them. Like we've been trying to get like the Ferret guys to sit down and be like, what happened to Ferret Records, things like that. And Trust Kill's another one where it's like it just kind of it disappeared, and it seemed like it almost happened overnight, and it's weird. It's weird that we don't talk about it
that, and that happens, and there's no money coming in. You know what I'm saying? And then they don't have a thing with the bands to where they get a percentage of their tour or anything like that. So it's definitely harder for those smaller bands. I mean, smaller labels to deal with.
It's harder for everyone.
Same for our bands. Okay, cool. And now we have no presence. Now we have no label. And what do you do? What do you do? Because they just sold all your back stock to somebody else, and you don't even own your own records anymore. That is what happened.
Yeah, and people are like, "I bought your copy," and you're like, "I don't get a cent from that."
Don't know. Yeah, I can't even put it back out because we don't own the rights to the music that we wrote.
Yeah, that's
it's crazy.
Yeah, and there's a ton of artists like that where it's like, what happened to your records? And people that their bands aren't together anymore. You're like, well, whatever happened to that album? I don't know who owns the rights to that record. If someone's making money off the streams, it's usually not the artist.
Not me. Yeah, I've never made money like that ever.
Yeah, that's just how it is. They'll at some point. I think we might be too close to it, and I think in 5-10 years we'll start seeing those stories really come to light, where people will be like, what happened?
Hold on 1 second. Oh my goodness! I was playing in the mud. Just a few more minutes, okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh my goodness. I'm doing an interview, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're almost done, don't worry.
My daughter, her hands are completely covered in mud. And she's running around in her underwear, and it's hilarious.
The joys of a small child.
Right.
Because it's only cute until they're like 10, then you're like, why are you covered in mud and in your underwear?
Yeah, she's with Grammy, so everyth's a go. She can do whatever she wants when she's with Grammy.
Well, yeah, I do. We are wrapping up here. You don't have many other things to ask you. You said you were listening to the album right now. What is your favorite track right now?
What's really funny is when you write songs, you name them one thing, and then you change the name. We constantly are like, wait, which song is what? The crap, Forever Militant. I really like Forever Militant. It's a bit slower, but I like the vibe. And then Damage is one I really like. But No One Can Save You From Yourself. That is really one of my favorites. And then I always love the Concrete Blonde song. I can't help it. I love that song, so it was cool for us to be able to do a cover. I mean, every record we tend to do like a mellow song. Yeah. And so I was really excited to be able to get this song in there. I love that song. I think it really it has the exact same vibe of the whole rest of the record, the lyrics and everything. So
yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who think you wrote that song, and they'll be like,
right,
wow,
I know. So I keep talking about it, Concrete Blonde. Like, it's not a song that people know. But it's a fantastic song. The first time I ever heard it, it hit me. Man, the lyrics are so good, and it just sums up so much of like Walls of Jericho and like things that we've gone through. Being at the time that we came out in '98, not a lot of females. Even Arch Enemy still had a male singer. There just was only a few, even in metal. So it's like we got a lot of grief and you're just doing it as a gimmick, and no, women can be passionate about this music, and we just got a lot of negative blowback, from having a female singer, and so that whole people think you're gonna fail, and you probably will, and and we're only human. None of us are perfect. We're perfectly imperfect, And so I love that song. It just kind of embraces all that. We all have our self-doubt. We all have those times, and we still have to push forward and persevere, So.
No, I completely agree. I think that's a great place to cap this off. Now, for everyone listening at home, what is everything that you have on the horizon? So the album comes out in 2 weeks from today, which is, what is it? Is it March 25th?
Yeah, it probably does it come out on the 24th or 25th?
It's 24th or 25th. It's that Friday.
Right, so it's the 25th. It comes out on the 25th, the day of our release show.
Okay, so we got that. So definitely the March 25th. Now, what else is in the world of Walls of Jericho everyone needs to know?
Well, we just released the Fight the Good Fight video, which is it was cool. It was cool to do. My friend Ryan Mead actually was the one who filmed it. He shot it and edited it. He does everything. He actually we worked with him because he has done like a few movies out of Detroit, quite a few movies. I think like 10. And then he did that movie Evil Dead?
Yes.
Yeah, so he did a documentary called Invaluable.
Okay.
And so he did a documentary for that. And so it was really cool to work with him. And then we're in the process right now of doing another music video, which will be out soon, and then touring. We will be touring this year as like much as we can. So, and then the floodgates are open for records. I mean, we actually had songs that didn't make it on this record that, that I can see for sure being on another one,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
when we're ready for that.
You released 2 things in 2008. You could release 2 things 8 years later. It would almost be meant to be.
That would be crazy.
Just do it again. Be like, every 8 years, we're going to release 2 records.
Right.
And then the rest of the time, we're going to tour.
Right. Sorry. You're going to blow the load in 1 year and deal with it.
You missed us? Well, now you're going to just wonder why we're around all the time now. We're just
Right.
keep chugging out material. No, this has been really fun, and I'm happy that we got to talk about the record. I think that this is one of the most powerful albums I've heard so far this year because every song, it feels like there's something urgent that you need to take away from it. And even though I think that there are overarching themes to the record, there's also like a ton of things you can take away. It's not just, figure out who you are and fight for that, but there's a lot more to it.
Right. No, man. Like, yeah, you can't have good times without having those bad times. And most people don't want to talk about those bad times, and they're looming. And if you don't keep reminding yourself that you're going to get through it, it just feels hopeless.
Yeah.
And even with what's going on in the world today, I mean, this is not just about your own personal, it's about everything, Change has got to start within us, and then it's a chain reaction to the rest of the world, but.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me.
Thank you so much for your time. This is awesome. Thank you.
This is super fun. I wish you the best of luck. I obviously, since I'm in Minneapolis, I'm not going to be at the release show. I have some friends I'm sending to the release show on my behalf, and hopefully if you guys make it out to Minneapolis and sometime we will hang out.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, and hey, look for Relentless. It's actually right near you.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to reach out.
Yeah, it's right. It will be in June or something, but it's a super cool thing to go watch. There's like over 100 lifters lifting crazy heavy weights, doing crazy stuff, and like it's all for the kids. It's pretty cool.
I feel like we could do a whole nother podcast about you and the powerlifting world, and we will down the line. Like we'll just have to do a whole other conversation, not even about music.
I'm totally in. I can talk about powerlifting all day. So.
All right. Well, you go hang out with your daughter. I'll get to editing this, but thank you so much for talking.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.